So I'm watching day 2 of this show trial regarding January 6th. And I'm a little confused here. Anybody else confused about this? Because they're not really talking about what happened on January 6th. They're actually talking about the election. And they just had Chris Stirewalt, Fox News, gloating about how Fox News projected Arizona. First question, if I were a Republican, I would immediately raise my hand and say, wait, I got a question here for the committee. Why did Fox News call Arizona early before all the votes were in? Why was Arizona called early before all the votes were in? I said it before, I'll say it again. You have two parties running the system. Nothing's going to change. They're going to rule the roost, and you're going to have corruption. That's exactly what happens in a two-party system. You mean to tell me that all I have in this country are two choices? January 6th, as mentioned before, this quote-unquote insurrection was a pivotal moment in American culture. It wasn't just in politics in this country, but in culture in general. Because here we go to the central authority to solve our problems. And the takeaway from January 6th is nobody can get along. Politically, at least, nobody can get along. Now, if you have to make the case, as Democrats, if you have to make the case, and welcome back to the channel, by the way, Culture Confederacy here, a one-take video. Got the volume up here on the TV with the hearing. So I can kind of do this, a snapshot in real time, if you will, because I can't live stream yet. So definitely subscribe, all that fun stuff here on YouTube, so that way one day I can get the subscribers I need to do a live stream. But if you've got to show how legitimate your side was in winning this election, and that's your opening argument during this January 6th show trial, this hearing, then obviously the election wasn't legitimate. Because if this is about January 6th, shouldn't the questions be aimed at lack of security January 6th? Who exactly, the parties involved January 6th, who exactly was involved in attacking the Capitol building? Wouldn't you be working from that angle? But I guess what they're trying to do, I know what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to come from the angle of Trump was so mad, he was so angry, he was so convinced that he won this election, he wasn't going to listen to anybody, he was determined he was going to win this election no matter what. And Joe Biden really was the legitimate president of all time, outwinning Obama by 8 million to 10 million votes. Even though they just showed a clip of Trump asking the question, why were there over 1,000 or so votes that were dumped after 6:30 morning? That's a very good question. It's like when Trump asked, who shot Ashley Babbitt? Very good question. So, of course, they've got Bill Barr on here, and he is saying, oh, well, it was all BS. Everything Trump said was BS. And I told the president this, and he brought me this report and it looked amateurish. Did it look amateurish, or was it that they did a better job than your side did, you idiots in D.C., who are part of the system that has this rigged? Because Chris Stirewalt just admitted, I can't believe this, he just admitted, the way that it works is Republicans have these votes come in first, and usually it's set at a high bar. So they have all these votes, and then the Democrats come in. And when the Democrats come in, they count their votes. And it's supposed to even out one way or the other. Well, I've got a couple questions. If we're going to talk about election, if this is going to be the first part of your hearing, okay, to make the argument here that it was a legitimate election, and you're going to talk about election day or election night, let's ask the question, well, why were the windows being blocked at this voting station, this polling station in Detroit? Why were they putting cardboard up on the windows? Why were votes being dumped at 4:30 in the morning? You know, I said before, and I'll say it again, I probably would have made a really great investigator. Because I'd be asking all the tough questions, unlike Barbara Walters. Ever see her interview? She says, now for the tough questions. Well, I'll give you some tough questions. We need to find out why security was breached on January 6th. We want to know, and we should find out why there was this election dump, these ballots dumped at 4:30 in the morning. What was going on in Atlanta? Why did you have people go in and recount after everybody had gone home? Folks, this is not good for the country, and this is not looking good for the Dems. This shows desperation. That's exactly what this shows. You know, one thing I love about this channel is I'm not going to hold anything back. That I just say it like it is. Whether YouTube or Google likes it or not. Because I have free speech in this country. Might be your internet platform, but I produce these videos. I upload them to YouTube. And I am protected by the First Amendment, freedom of speech, which means I have the right to debate on issues such as the election, on what happened on January 6th. If we're going to get to the bottom of it, then that's what we got to do, is ask the tough questions. Pardon me, because if you don't ask the tough questions, taking a sip of my coffee here, pipe and coffee in hand as always, as you know. And thank you for subscribing to the channel, being a part of this thing we call the Cultural Confederacy, because I love this country. But I think we need to get back to our roots. As I mentioned many, many times before, states need to be sovereign and independent. Get rid of the presidency, get rid of the Supreme Court, and that's also in the news today. You have this, Blocks DC group, I forget the name of this group. It's like Stop DC. They're protesting the Supreme Court. Well, we wouldn't have this happen if we didn't have a Supreme Court to begin with. Bring the Supreme Court back to the state level. All these social issues should be brought back to the state level. Government should have no business and has no business getting involved in social issues, period. Whether it's gay marriage, abortion, you name it, they have no business getting involved with that. Their only job, the federal government's only job, is to protect the homeland and oversee international trade. That's it. Everything else needs to go back to the states. So, folks, here's what you need to know. This hearing, it's BS. It's all BS. And Republicans and Democrats are in on it. Because if these Republicans had any backbone, they would stand up during this hearing, interrupt the hearing, and say, hey, I've got a couple of questions here. So let's get to the bottom of this. If we're going to talk about January 6th, let's talk about January 6th, not election night. You want to have a separate hearing about election fraud? Okay, fine. But I thought this was supposed to be about January 6th. Again, if your opening argument is that it was such a legitimate election, and Joe Biden won by 8 to 10 million more votes than Obama, then obviously something's not on the up and up. Obviously this wasn't legitimate because you're working this hard to prove that it was. Am I making any sense to people out there? Folks, I love this country. I love our way of life as Americans. The idea that we can go and we can vote. But if you're going to have, because I've heard this thrown around, honest elections, the integrity of our elections, then you need to have more parties in the fray, more representation. And I think it's time that we nix not only DC, but these two political parties who have done more damage to this country than God knows what. So I was going to read you the minutes here from what's going on. You can probably hear the hearing in the background. So they've had Bill Barr testifying through video clips, mind you. Oh, and this is funny. Bill Stepien, I think is Stepien. He was a Trump advisor, representative or something. Well, they were going to subpoena him for this hearing. Well, he had a family emergency. His wife is expected to give birth, so his wife went into labor. So I think that's funny. Maybe she just had labor pains and he made it up so that he could get out of this. Hey, I do the same thing. And where's Mike Pence? I'd like to. They should really call Mike Pence in this. Where's Mike Pence? Where was he on January 6th? Okay, so let's listen to this hearing for just a moment. I'm doing this in real time. Snapshot. Okay, Capitol Riot Committee proceeding underway. And they got somebody testifying. Of course, he's saying some BS testimony. Suitcases full of fraudulent ballots. Well, let's investigate that. Let's find out what was in these suitcases. Were these fraudulent ballots or not? That's a legitimate question for any candidate. Republican, Democrat, Independent. Polka dot, purple, blue party. I told them that there was no no reason to count the ballots. One ballot and screening it through 5 or 6 times to. Okay, it's all BS. The video did not support. Oh, I think they're talking about what happened in Atlanta. This video of them recounting these ballots when everybody had gone home. Indians are getting paid to vote. Lots of fraud going on here. Apparently, this is what Trump is saying. Not supported by the evidence.
Mr. Barr and his advisors were not the only ones who determined that the president's allegations regarding Dominion voting machines.
Mr. Barr and Trump's advisors were not the only ones to say that there weren't questions about the Dominion voting machine. Well, it sounds to me like everybody in D.C. was throwing Trump under the bus because they don't like Trump. Now, I didn't vote for Trump, but I liked his enthusiasm for the country. You Democrats wanted to vote for Biden? This guy is milquetoast. And look what's happening in the country right now. High gas prices, baby shortage formula. We got people flooding the border. 59, oh, here you go. Election security scientists. Who the hell are they? Election security scientists. They all confirmed there was no widespread fraud, yet nobody really investigated this. Oh, here's the man from Mississippi who was talking about slavery at the beginning of this hearing, you know. And that's on day 1. By the way, this is going to go on all week. Committee's now going to recess. So they've established that there was no fraud. Trump was mad as hell, and he believed there was. And this was the most legitimate election of our lifetime, with Biden winning 8 to 10 million more votes than Obama. Well, so I don't get a copyright strike here on YouTube, I'm going to turn this down. I would just want to hear the hearing. Folks, I'm telling you, it's time for the American people to wake up and say, to hell with these people in D.C., to hell with these political parties. We're just going to go ahead and declare our sovereignty and independence as state and bring everything back to the local level. And we're going to preserve our traditions in this country. One of them being the voting process. And we're going to have more people in the fray because that's the right thing to do. Instead of Republican, Democrat. I am so tired of having to vote for 2 parties. When neither party can get along and they haven't done a damn thing to make this country any better. It's all window dressing, folks. It's all window dressing. All window dressing. Putting up the cardboard at that polling station in Detroit. So I thought I'd come here and rant and give you an update on what's going on with this hearing. Sorry I couldn't get to the actual minutes. But if you like the video, you know what to do. A snapshot in real time of this hearing, January 6th. It's going to go on, as I said, for this whole week, all week long. But this should have been about what happened on January 6th. What happened with Capitol Police, with the security on January 6th. What parties were actually involved that invaded the U.S. Capitol, that were engaging in insurrection. Was it really an insurrection? Taking a selfie and walking around with horns on your head is an insurrection? Breaking a window is insurrection? No, that's called vandalism, when you break a window. Criminal activity. When you got video of security allowing, or police officers allowing people in, removing these barricades, there are some serious questions that need to be answered. And guess what? If I'm one of the few people on YouTube to ask the questions, then so be it. Because I'm not afraid to do so. And neither should you. You need to be asking the tough questions and hold these people's feet to the fire in D.C. These officials who allowed January 6th to happen. They let it happen, folks. Because they wanted to let it happen so they could put egg on Trump's face. That's exactly what this is about. They want to make sure that Trump had no chance of running in 2024, if in fact he chooses to run in 2024. So I try my best not to get political. Maybe I should just go into the political spectrum. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Should I just get involved totally in politics here? I mean, I try to keep this about preserving American history, culture, or history and culture in general, bringing to light music by lesser known composers, that sort of thing, celebrating great art, great music. That's what I want to do on the channel, because I think that's important. And this idea of free speech, debate, anti-censorship, that all ties into this thing we call the Culture Confederacy. So thank you for being with me. Thank you for allowing me to rant. You like the video, you know what to do. You can also catch me at Instagram, hashtag Jason Composes, or follow me at Twitter, Culture Confederacy at Twitter. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out. Stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country. And I'll catch you next time as we continue to cover this week's show trial, the January 6th hearing. Take care, everybody.